The next topic is insights from sign language. Research shows that sign languages are natural languages because they arise from our natural need to communicate with deaf people. The sign languages follow the similar stages of acquisition as are followed in the spoken languages. Deaf babies go through the same process of acquisition as do the hearing babies. Now, the sign languages are although gestural, but they are present in parts of the brain which are responsible for language processing. What is interesting to note is that sign languages have no connection with the local spoken language. It is, therefore, common to find sign languages in countries that share a single spoken language. Now we will look at different concepts and points on the basis of which we can derive the insight from the sign languages. So we have the differences between signed and spoken languages. Now differences can be seen in terms of arbitrariness, simultaneous and sequential structure, and then you have similarities between sign and spoken languages. So in terms of the differences first, the first point which is related to the arbitrary quality or the property of these languages, it is seen that there is no intrinsic relationship between the set of sounds and the object to which the sounds refer to. For example, there is no relation between the size of a word and the size of its referent. We can have big words for small objects, for example, a word caterpillar, and small words for big objects, for example, train. So you have a small object which is caterpillar is a very small, but if you look at a word, it's a big word. And when you look at the object which is train, it's a big object, but the word which describes or which is attached to its property is small, just few alphabets. So according to Hockett, this is universal feature of human language. This arbitrariness. American Sign Languages, in contrast, possess high degree of iconicity. Now, iconicity means sign resembling the object or activates to which they refer. Sign language possesses a high degree of iconicity. For example, the sign for attention. Sign for attention is to hold both hands parallel to one another in front of one's face and then move them away from one's body. Then we have simultaneous and sequential structure. Spoken language is largely sequential in nature, while sign language can be organized spatially more than temporally. We have rules that specify the correct order of phonemes with syllables, syllables within words, and words within sentence. So sign language differs in that it is organized spatially more than temporally, meaning the meaning of utterance is not specified primarily by the order of signs, but by the combination of features simultaneously present in the sign. Looking at the similarities between sign and spoken, the first is the duality of patterning, where we can see the hand configuration, place of articulation, and movement. 3 parameters of signs are hand configurations, place of articulations, and movement. Now, Stock and his colleagues, they identified 19 different values of hand configuration or hand shapes. These include an open palm, a closed fist, a partially closed fist with the index finger pointing. Place of articulation, which has 12 values, deals with whether the sign is made at the upper brow, the cheek, the upper arm, and so on. Movement refers to whether the hands are moving upward, downwards, sideways, toward or away from the signer in rotary fashion, and so on, and includes 24 values. Although these values are meaningless in themselves, they are combined in various ways to form American Sign Language and their signs. Thus, American Sign Language has duality of patterning. Next is morphology. Now we see that in terms of the morphological system, American Sign Language is pretty rich sign language. Now that morphological system which is there has signals for various grammatical distinctions. For instance, the distinction between first and second person is marked on signs such as ask. When the utterance is in the first person, ask me, the movement of sign is towards the signer, whereas when it is in the second person, ask you, the movement is away from the signer and toward the addressee. The next about productivity, which is the linguistic productivity, the property of embedding one sign into another is also something that occurs in the American Sign Language. With regard to phrase structure, American Sign Language has subject-verb-object pattern. As we have seen, English marks grammatical categories such as subject and verb via word order. So, American Sign Language also does this as well. For example, with transitive verbs, verb that requires a direct object such as give, tell, the order in which the constituents are signed is subject, verb, object. Thus, American Sign Language makes some use of temporal order as far as phrase structure is concerned. Insight from sign languages are primarily concerned with the differences and the similarities between sign and spoken languages. The major factors include arbitrariness, simultaneous and sequential structure, and duality of patterning.